All right, hello everyone. June 2019 Regents coming up. So we're operating under the assumption that we did this. If you're sitting here and you're like, I didn't see any of these, why are you going so fast? I mean, it's still worthwhile for you to be here, but again, this was based on the little optional mock Regents that was highly suggested. Okay. What's up, YouTube fam? Okay. So we start off with, if you're noticing, and we like to say, number 1's not the easiest and 24 is not the hardest, but weirdly enough, that probably was the case for this one. But number 1 I do find is usually on the easier side for whatever reason. Number 1 is practicing dot stuff. So what choice do we have here? Choice 4, right? If we have a dots factoring question, just be careful of some obvious wrong answers. I have seen people that have done very well and they've gotten a question like number 1 wrong. So just be careful. The ones that I got wrong were careless. Yeah, that's usually what happens, Ethan. So that's something you would probably check the day of the test, right? All right, for number 2, f of -3. I mean, this is function notation 101. Plug in a -3. What do we get for number 2? Plug in a -3. We get 4 times -3 is -12 plus 5 is -7. Choice 2, good. Which one is not a function? Which one is not a function? What do we get for number 3? Yeah, what's wrong with 4? 4 is what we call a mapping diagram. We've seen this in our lesson, so it shouldn't be too new, but it still is a little weird. It's like a table, but the arrows tell you what goes to what, not like the rows. So what's wrong with it is what Kira's saying. 2 has 2 arrows coming out of it. 2 is an input, and it has 2 outputs, so 2 repeats, right? The table is good. The graph is an absolute value function, so obviously it's a function. It passes the vertical line test. Number 2 is a linear function. I don't care what it looks like. It's a line. It's a non-vertical line. It's going to be a function. Choice 4, the mapping diagram fails. For number 4, transformation question. How would you compare the graph of g of x to f of x? So what changed? The only thing that changed was -2 became -5. So how would those two graphs compare to one another? So g of x would be 3 more to the choice 2, 3 to the right. Good. Now be careful here. I saw people put like choice 4 as an answer when this exam was given. Sorry about that. I saw people put choice 4 as an answer. How does 4 make sense? Yeah, some people in here might have got it wrong. If you were just talking about g of x itself, like -5, you're like, oh, 5 to the right. But it says in comparison to f of x. So f of x has been slid 2 to the right. G of x has been slid 5 to the right. So in comparison, it's 3 more to the right. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly. So be careful. For number 5, standard form stuff. Who's correct? Ann, Bob, Carrie, or Dylan? Who's correct? Ann. Ann is correct. So with standard form, we're looking to see that the exponents go in descending order. Descending order. Doesn't matter with the coefficients at all. Pretty easy. Good job, Ann. For number 6, the function f is shown in the table below. Which type of function is f of x? Which type of function? Choice 1, exponential growth. So how do we know it's exponential first? How do we know it's exponential first? We see a pattern of multiplication. So we know it's not linear. Cross off 3 and 4. Now, how do we know whether it's growth or decay? It's growth because it's going up. Very basic, okay? Going up, cross off choice 2. It's not, doesn't have a constant rate of change. Cross off 3 and 4. Without even knowing much about exponential functions, we could easily answer this. Number 7, which one's going to be rational? Should be choice 1. When you multiply radicals, you can multiply what's underneath, and right away I see 1 works out. Number 2 would be 5 rad 5 still. You can't cancel anything there. Number 3 would be 2 radical 2. And number 4, you can't even add. So the rest of the choices are pretty obvious that you can't do anything with. Okay, Jasmine, thanks for that. For number 8, which function could represent this graph? So this is, you've seen this question a few times now, right? I think I threw this on a test, you did this on a review, it's been on other stuff. This is like, hey, let's write down the roots and then let's unsolve them to figure out what they were as factors. So physically write down your roots, and now which one has these as bubbles? So we got x plus 2, x minus 1, this is the unsolving part, and x minus 2. Now, unfortunately, they did the thing where like they didn't just write all 3 bubbles next to each other. What they did was multiply 2 of these together, and it looks like the answer for number 8 was choice 3, I believe. If you multiply these 2 and leave the x minus 1, you get x squared minus 4. We've seen it a few different ways. Sometimes they just, this is the answer choice, which is a lot easier. In this case, they just multiplied x plus 2 times x minus 2 to get the x squared minus 4. You could do your box method if you're not comfortable with that. Okay. For number 9, what property did Kate use? What property did Kate use? I always, with questions like this, think about what changed, what happened? What happened? Plus 5 became plus 12. The minus 7 is magically gone. So what did she do? She added 7 to both sides. So choice 4. She didn't distribute anything. There's not even parentheses. There's no associative or commutative. She didn't change anything on the same side. She didn't change the order. She didn't change the grouping. Choice 4, the addition property. She did plus 7 on both sides. Yeah, keep it simple. David wanted to go to the amusement park. A sign poster read, "You must be greater than 42 inches tall and no more than 57 inches tall for this ride." Which inequality would model his height? I mean, look at number 2. The symbols are facing the wrong way. Same thing with number 4. This is saying you have to be under 42 inches tall, like you have to be a baby or something. So it's between choice 1 and 3. So 1 and 3, what's the difference? Number 3 is saying as an or statement, which is like you could be taller than 42 or you could be less than 57. We want to have both of those at the same time. So the compound inequality here is choice 1, saying, hey, you have to be bigger than 42, greater than 42, and at the same time, you have to be less than or equal to 57. That's what no more than translates to. That's not a common one, if that threw you off. But luckily, there weren't really any tricks with that. No more than means less than or equal to. It says X or X. Was this actually a Regents? What do you mean? What is he talking about? Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. I didn't like make this up. Okay. Number 11. Which one is which one can be modeled by a linear function? Which one is linear? Triple times 3. Exponential. Depreciate. I see percentages. Exponential. Amusement park allows 50 people every 30 minutes. 50 people, 30 minutes. 50 people, 30 minutes. 50 people. That's a constant rate of change. Or 100 people per hour, if you want to think of it that way. Every hour, 100 people are coming in. Every hour, 100 people are coming in. And number 4, half, so times 1/2. No, exponential. 1, 2, and 4 are all exponential models. Two-way tables, we just did this in statistics. What was this on your stat test? I might even put this on the stat test. Of the people who preferred burgers, so of the people who preferred burgers, that's talking about 68 people. You have to add these two guys together. Of the people who preferred burgers, what percentage were female? There was 26 people that preferred burgers out of 68 people. Remember, with these two-way tables, set your denominator first. That's usually the easier route. And what is 26 out of 68? What is 26 out of 68? I do have a calculator on me now. It's something. It's about 0.38. So that is a percent, is about 38.2%. Yep, choice 2. To make it a percent, just multiply it by 100. Your calculator will tell you this, about 0.382. make it a percent, just move the decimal over twice. All right, we're flying by here. 13, solving the inequality for A. Move the 2A to the left by subtracting. Move the 7B over by subtracting. You get negative 15B. So A is greater than negative 15B. Choice 4? Yeah, that's pretty easy. Move the 2A over by subtracting. Move the 7B over by subtracting as well. Negative 8 minus 7 is negative 15. Be careful, I guess, for people putting choice 1. You just made a mistake with 8 and 7. We good so far? 14. 3 functions are shown below. Ooh, this is scary. Which statement is true? B and C have the same zeros. Okay, so what are the zeros here? Negative 2 and negative 4. The zeros here would be negative 2 and negative 6. It's already factored, so I could cheat. So that's not true. A and B have the same y-intercept. The y-intercept in A is 4. Just look at the constant. And B has a y-intercept of, that's if x were 0. That would be 12, I believe, right? So that's not true. What did we get for number 14? Number 14. This is one of those where you have to go through all the choices here. So we said 1 and 2 are out. Probably like one of the more time-consuming questions. B has a minimum and C has a maximum. So that's easy. C does have a maximum. It's a sad face. It has a peak, right? And B is a positive quadratic. Without even foiling it, you could tell that. So that's true. B has a minimum. It's got a low point. It looks something like that. And C has a maximum. Not as hard as we thought. Choice 3. Maybe you could have like skipped to that, but I just wanted to show 1 and 2 were wrong. And what was 4? C has a maximum and A has a minimum. A line doesn't have min and max, so it's a line. It doesn't have max or mins. Only quadratics do. Or absolute value too, I guess. Okay, choice 3 for 14. For number 15, Nikki's sister is 7 years less than twice Nikki's age. 7 years less than twice her age. What happens with less than again? Not the inequality symbol, but with translating. What happens when we say less than? More than that. It's kind of like subtracted from. It's subtraction, but what happens? Yeah, we switch the order, right? It doesn't mean 7 minus 2a. And the sum of their ages is 41, so we want to add them up. So for number 15, we should get choice 2. Choice 2. So Nikki is A, right? That's Nikki's age. 2a minus 7. 7 years less than twice her age. I could see people putting choice 1. I'm looking through. Only a few people. Okay, only like a handful. Yeah, only a few of you guys. Okay, I foresaw more people putting choice 1, I guess, but we recognize, hey, 7 less than actually means minus 7 on the end, rather than just translating it directly. Good. Number 16. Okay, which statement about this function is true? Okay, so you need a calc for this. Okay, so this is just an exponential regression on your calculator. This is a good example of like, hey, I'm not a calc person. I don't really pay attention to the buttons. Like you would need to know how to use the calculator to answer something like this. So we're going to go into our list. There's a weird thing here. I don't want to type like 2013. It says 2013 is 0, okay, which means 2014 is 1, 2015 is 2, 2016 is 3. If you have a good memory, we did a question like this where they did skip. Do you guys remember that? There was like a gap in the years, but they didn't do that trick here. And then L2 is just straight up 3810, 3943. While I'm typing, can anyone tell us how to get x per egg? How do you get x per egg on your calc? So I typed them in under L1 and L2. Looks like that. How do we get x breg? Stat, calc. And you might be saying, how do you even know to do x breg? They kind of tell you it's an exponential function by saying a times b to the x power. I'm not going to do a linreg. X breg is kind of hidden. You got to scroll down to 0 or just hit the 0 button. And your regression should yield an a value of 38. What did they round a to, the nearest whole number? You get 3809.8. I'm assuming that was rounded to the nearest whole number. So Roman numeral 1. And for B, you get 1.035. So 1 and 4. So choice 2. Do we get choice 2 for 16? Choice 2 for 16 is correct, I believe. We didn't do so hot with that one. So I'm just showing you what my calculator says. Okay. Oh, it does say population is rounded to the nearest person. Okay. Number 17. What topic is number 17? Eyeglass factoring. As always with these, you could box them out, but that's not ideal. Let's just review how to do eyeglass factoring. We go bop, bop. So we're looking for a sum of -11 and a product of -12. That would be -12 and 1. Let's do trash. We're going to start each bubble with what the lead coefficient is. Put in the two numbers we just found. And throw away if there is a GCF. Leaving it if there's not a GCF. So that would be choice 3. Choice 3. As always with factoring questions, you could just box them out if you're not really a big factoring fan, but I just plugged it in for that one. Which ordered pair does not represent a point on the graph of? Okay. So I'll show you a hack for this, for number 18. Just use your calculator. You could obviously sit and manually plug them in. Type in the function under y equals. And now you're not obviously, if you look at through all the choices, those are not like, you're not going to see those choices. Does anyone know how to, or remember, because I did show you this, how to change what your table goes by? There's a few ways you could do it. It might be easier to turn on something where we can type in our table. Hit second window. The easiest way, you could mess with what your table goes by. That's delta table. If you want to maybe make it go by quarters or something. I find it easier to turn on independent to ask. Turn it on ask. Now I could type in whatever I want. So your table is blank at first, but you could just type in all these different x values. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. I typed in all 4 x values that quick. And now let's just see which one's right. The -1. Oh, not on the graph. Oops. Which one is not right? Always read the question. Ooh, tricky, tricky. So 1.25 should be 10.43, not 10.25. So it's actually really close too. There wasn't like an obvious wrong one. And also which one is not on the graph. Okay. Number 19, given these sequences, which ones are arithmetic? Which ones are arithmetic? Arithmetic is kind of like linear, goes up by the same amount, whereas geometric is kind of like exponential, multiplies by something. So which ones are arithmetic? Which ones are arithmetic? 1 and 3, yeah, 1 is +2, +2, +2. Roman numeral 3 is saying like the same thing basically, just with variables, like +2, +2 on top of that, +2 on top of that, +2 on top of that. Roman numeral 2 is a geometric sequence where the pattern is ×2. So 1 and 3 only. I don't know why it says the word only. 1 and 3, choice 2. Question? Someone just randomly talk? Okay. A grocery store sells beef. The function C of W. We've seen this question a bunch of times, right? What's an appropriate domain for this? C is the cost, W is the weight in pounds. Be careful here, yeah. We've seen a lot of these where it's like, oh, whole numbers, or like choice 3, positives, right? Positive integers is the same as whole numbers. This one is choice 4. Weight can be a decimal. Positive rational numbers is what you'd want here. Obviously, if you're like throwing random packages of meat on there, it's going to be some weird decimal. Positive rational. Integers includes negative, no good. Rational includes negative as well, no good. Positive integers are only like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't be a good scale to have. You'd be rounding everyone's weight either up or down. So positive rationals. This way we could have decimal amounts. 21. 21. Ooh. So for 21, kind of annoying because we're like, oh, does it work out nicely or does it not? Because some of the choices are nice, some of them are not so nice. So what we could do here is quad formula, I suppose. This won't factor if you analyze it for a little bit. So it's going to be a not nice choice, spoiler alert. I wouldn't want to do CTS here because B is odd. Quad formula is on that little reference sheet. Negative B plus or minus 2A. Your radicand is B squared. Negative 5 squared is not negative 25. Minus 4AC. So plus 16. 25 plus 16 is 41. That doesn't help me. 5 plus or minus 41 all over 2. Oh, okay. Look at the difference between choice 2 and choice 4. 4 would get some people because people mess up the negative B part. If B is negative 5, negative B would be negative negative 5 or positive 5. Took an educated guess. I mean, I would do quad formula. Or if you're like, how could you do this? It's multiple choice. I don't feel like busting out quad formula. Your other option would be to use like, you could use a calc feature. Remember how to do zeros, like the left bound, right bound thing? You could figure out what that is as a decimal. And then you could see, hey, did number 2 match my decimal answers or did number 4 match my decimal answers? At that point, it's probably easier just to do quad formula. Kyle, I just said that, dude. It's written on, it's on your reference sheet. All right, yeah, we had this question on the stat test. Population standard deviation. So there's 2 types of standard deviation. There's sample, SX, and then there's population. That's the sigma X one. What's this population standard deviation again for this one? What was 22? Standard deviation, remember, type them in all under L1, and then 1 var stats. And it's choice 3.5. It's not even close to any. So even if you confuse the SX versus the sigma X here, there's nothing even close. Okay. What's the rate of decay if your base is 0.98? This is an easy question that people don't understand how to read it. If your base is 0.98, that means 98% of the bacteria remain every, what is this? Every year, whatever it is, right? Which means what rate is it decaying at? It's not decaying at 98%. It's decaying at a rate of 2%. You don't want to get a question like this wrong. Think about how easy this is once you know what to do, right? Look at the base. The best way to remember how to do these is like what's missing from it being 1. If the base was 1, that would mean like 100%. So 0.98, it's off by 0.02. What's wrong with 3 and 4? 3 and 4 are like the decimals, and they're then just like slapping on a percent sign. So we don't want to do that either. But 0.02 is 2%. So 23, choice 2. Kyle, what did you do wrong here? I see you're reacting. You put 0.02. Okay. So yeah, that's the decimal form. To make something into a percent, you multiply it by 100. Okay. What the heck is this question? If you've been listening carefully the past few weeks, I said, like, you guys remember, I think it was question 2 on one of the Regents we did. It had like miles per hour into something, and I kind of referenced that. This is just like a random question. And I taught an 8th grade class. This was the last class they took at Junior Regents, the 2019, because there wasn't a 2020. And they were like, what the heck? Like, So we're going to do a review lesson on a topic like this, and it's just like random number conversions. So how do you do this? Let's talk about that first. You don't need to have these memorized. So it's talking about centimeters and inches, right? It wants it to go from 91 centimeters per day into, what does it want? Inches per hour. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down. I think I have them attached here. The little reference sheet. It's literally, when you guys take the Regents, you get the booklet. See how it says tear there? Like you rip it out, keep it on your desk. This way you don't have to flip for it. I also tell people to rip it out. This way you don't forget about its existence. Because it is like all the way at the back of your booklet. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so which one are we interested in here? Which one are we interested in? This is not something people commonly know. If it was like convert feet into, inches or something, I'd be like, oh, guys, it's common sense. But this is something like, I don't even know this number. Yeah, 1 inch equals 2.54. Let's go all the way back to 24. I don't know why they give this because, like I said, this is kind of random. It's almost like a science question, it feels like. All right, so first things first, let's convert 91 centimeters into whatever that is in inches. We could set up a proportion. So we could say 1 inch is to 2.54 as some amount of inches is to 91. You can cross multiply. This is basically going to turn into 91 divided by 2.54. Grab my calc for that. We have to worry about time as well, but this will at least give us the right amount of inches. 91 divided by 2.54 is going to be about 35.82. I'm going to round a little bit. This is approximate. About 35.827 inches. Now that's per day. We're still in inches per day. What do I have to do to this number to finish it off? So that just converted the centimeters to inches. I still have to worry about the time constraint here. Oh, yeah, you just rip it. What did he say? No, yeah, okay, I know that's confusing. The reference sheet is for all three math regions. They use the same one. They're lazy, so they just print the same one. So there's a lot of formulas on there you don't use. Good, we're going to divide by 24. Divide by 24. And you get choice one. This was our worst question, and I expected that. What do we got on this? Like 50%? Yeah, 48%. And you were probably like, when you're doing it, like, what the heck? But hopefully now that you see, like, oh yeah, there is a reference sheet. I can't even give like a frame of reference. If you look at like the that topic analysis sheet, I think I call these ones like number conversions. There's only been a handful. I don't know. We can get lucky and not have one of them. I mean, in some ways they are easy once you know, like, oh yeah, let me look at the reference sheet. You get 16 and 18. How'd you get 18, bro? And 16 is pretty easy. 10 and 20. Got some easy ones wrong. Okay. Okay, any other questions with the multiple choice? If anyone can guess what fruit I'm eating, I will not give homework tomorrow. Wow. No one's got it. I'm eating pineapple. Pineapple. Wait, someone said it? Sure. Kyle said it at 350. I don't know. I didn't see it. Okay. So, um, hmm. Let's do this because I don't want to rush through it because we have like 8 or so minutes. We'll start. However, we're probably only going to get a few of these done, but I wanted to give you an idea grading wise and really talk about the process of, like, for example, as we do this one, we'll have enough time to do this definitely. Like, all right, I got it wrong. Okay, blah blah blah. But did I get a 0 or a 1? Or hopefully, if you got it correct, then we don't even have to worry about that. But you know, we'll kind of talk about the grading process. All right, so we have a linear equation here. First thing that we should do, what is your instincts telling you to start with this one? Where should we start? Mm-hmm. I was eating strawberries earlier too. Some of the strawberries. Okay. When you combine your two x's here, I have negative 2/3 plus 2/3. Those are just 0. This one's actually easier than meets the eye. Nice. Okay. We get negative 10 when we move the 2 over. And how do we get rid of fractional coefficients? How do we get rid of fractional coefficients? Reciprocal. Good. What's the reciprocal of negative 5/4? Good, Kira. Negative 4/5. Ba-ba. And negative 4/5 times negative 10, negative, negative. Da, da. What do we got? X equals 8. Now, let's talk about grading. If you just wrote x equals 8, let me pull up the model responses just to make sure. This did say algebraically, so you did have to show a process here. So if you had the work and you wrote x out of 8, 2 out of 2. Okay? I'm pulling up the model responses here. Let's see. If you got x equals 1/2, so they go through and they figure out, hey, like, these are common things. If you got x equals 1/2, basically that's making an error like at the last step with the reciprocal, you get a 1 out of 2. So if you have like a simple mistake or you're like, oh, I put negative 8, I messed up the negative sign, like I did everything else, I just messed up, 1 out of 2. If you have, you know, something more, you had no idea what to do and it's just like gibberish and stuff like that, then we're talking about 0 out of 2. I think some people are still confused with the idea of, like, I'm going to call it like sympathy points. Like, oh, I showed my work, so shouldn't I get something? Right? We don't, it's got to make sense. Just because you put, if you filled out the whole page, but it's all gibberish and it's wrong and there's nothing sound in it, you don't get like a sympathy point. Like, oh, let me throw him a point. He tried. So it has to make somewhat sense. So again, small calculation error. The 2-point questions are very easy to break down. Either you got it, you had kind of like a small mistake, or you got some major mistakes. That's really the breakdown. Gibberish, yeah, like doesn't, you know, like made up almost, right? Ethan was texting Miss. Wait, what? Ethan should talk to Mrs. Lee before taking the text. Lost me there. I read that as Ethan was texting. Okay. Questions with that one. We'll do probably get 1 or 2 more done. Abram's funeral will be tomorrow after school. I hope everyone can attend. Okay. If C equals G minus 3F, find the trinomial that represents C. So this is just kind of like, hey, plug the polynomials in where they go. So 3x squared plus 4 for G minus 3, and then F goes in. Remember to use parentheses here for F. We're going to distribute the negative 3, and we get this, and now I want to combine like terms, and they say like basically put your answer in standard form, like don't just leave it like that. So we're going to combine like terms, negative 3x squared, negative 18x, and then plus 19. Okay, let me just pull out my scoring key here. So if you got that, 2 out of 2. I'm looking at the 1 out of 2. The 1 out of 2. So again, it's kind of hard, but like they have an example, like someone put this, not saying that this exact thing, but like plus 18x minus 11. So if you made like, I guess, a mistake with maybe the signs there for the 18x, like you kept it positive, like they have that as a 1 out of 2. So if you're noticing like, hey, I did something minor, once again, 1 out of 2. If you got some more major mistakes or you had like all 3 terms wrong, that would be like a 0 out of 2. Okay, questions with the scoring? I know it's tough for me to like go case by case and be like, well, I put this and I put this and I put this, but hopefully my breakdown kind of breaks it down for you in terms of, hey, I got it correct. Hey, I got like one small thing wrong, or, whoa, I got the whole thing wrong. Again, we don't get sympathy points. Okay, this question I believe was on the, was this in the Ed puzzle? This looks really familiar. Yeah, this exact one was in the Ed puzzle, right? Was it? All right, either way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We make mini tables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm going to make an imaginary one. Oh, yeah, it was. Was it? No, because that one had a horizontal line, I think, right? So that would be your absolute value, open circle. Just really quick going over the mini table idea, like for the linear function. You could cheat. You could use the beginning and the end. You can't do that for anything that's not a line, like the absolute value. You wouldn't be able to do that for. This we can. This should be closed on both sides. If you plug in a 2, you get 6. If you plug in a 6, you get negative 2. So 2, 6. I mean, a piece, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was happy when I saw this question because myself and the other teachers at the school, we kind of stress piecewise functions where it's 4, 5, 6. You know, we do a lot with piecewise, but at the same time, it's like, oh, this is annoying for part 2. I'm only getting 2 points for this graph. But we do a lot of these. We should be like, should come as second nature at this point. So for this one, yeah, it is a lot of work for 2 points. If you have like a circle mistake, you put a closed circle on the right, or you have an open circle here or there, one graphing mistake, 1 out of 2. Excuse me, once again, if you feel like you have multiple errors, so let me pull up the scoring guide. Okay, this was an interesting one. I remember scoring this. If you graphed both functions fully, so let's say you graphed the full absolute value function, like the full V, you graphed the full line, they gave you a 1 out of 2, which was kind of generous because that means like you didn't understand piecewise at all and you just went full like graphing. You got a 1 out of 2 if you graph these fully, which was kind of weird. I was like, really? If you got your endpoints mixed up, like you have open and closed circles. With graphs, you have to do them in pencil. Yeah, I know it might get confusing with science, but in math, the written section, this graphs are in pencil. Because if you mess up in pen on the graph, you want to change something, you're gonna like need a new booklet. You don't need to label piecewise, Sarah. You don't need to label. Most of the time, to be honest, especially this year, we're grading it in-house. I would just say do the whole thing in pencil. Doesn't matter if you do it in pen. Okay. So we'll stop there. I guess it's 4 o'clock. We have the other 3 days this week. We'll hopefully finish the June 2019 and keep track. If you're someone that you did all these questions and you're like, all right, I got a 2 on this, maybe keep a note or track of like what your scores are so far. So we're stopping at 27. This way, when we're all done, I'll show you guys the scoring key and you can convert your score in terms of what you would actually got. The points don't add up to 100. Some people were surprised by that. If you did get 100 on this exam, you got an 86. So it adds up to 86. So we'll go over how to convert that and things like that. You're eating Takis. Is he? Fruit roll up. It's real food. What are those? Fake food? What was it? Pizza. Oh, you wait. Takis is candy? Gio's eating toes. Okay. Any other questions? Anything? Oh, and that was all being recorded, so that's awesome. Why did it not stop?